Alright guys and girls, so it's been a long time coming. A lot of other stuff going on in the shop that's prevented us from getting to this project, but in light of current events, we have some more time on our hands to get back to work on our Project Frontier. And to refresh some people's memory who might not be familiar with this, about, I guess, a little over a year ago, we designed a transfer case adapter to put a Trailblazer SS transfer case behind a TR6060 transmission to make an all-wheel drive manual trans setup. We actually built one of those for Jeremy Formato down at Faster Proms, who's been using it in his S10 truck. But we made two. We made a second one for this truck as well to build our own all-wheel drive pickup truck type setup. So the plan, at least, I'll try to give a rundown of what my thought process is on how I want to attack this, and hopefully that'll lay itself out well in how the videos come out. But today I want to start on the back half of the truck. So we want to pull the bed off the truck. It's going to be off for a while because we're going to do a lot of work suspension wise and frame wise and all on it. But I want to work from the cab back. So we're going to pull the bed off. I want to drop the live axle out of the back, cut off the spring hangers. Another kind of refresher, we're actually planning on converting this truck to independent suspension. And all of the Nissan trucks, the Frontier, the Xterra, the Pathfinder, even the Armada and the Titan, all share the same frame shape in the rear as far as the width between the frame rails and the way the frame comes up over the axle. The difference being the Pathfinder and the Armada are independent suspension and all the other trucks are live axle. So what you can do, at least I haven't done it, I don't know of anybody specifically who has done it, but my theory has always been that we can bolt the independent suspension from an Armada into a Frontier. We had bought an Armada in one of the previous videos, ripped the whole independent suspension out of the back, cut the subframe mounts out of the back so that we could then weld those mounts onto this frame. So we've got those mounts, we've got an Armada subframe. I guess we'll find out in this video how well it works out. We're gonna, like I said, drop the live axle stuff off to put the independent stuff in and get those perches welded in. Once they're in, we'll reassemble the rear subframe and try to make the truck a roller again. After that, the plan is going to be to spin the truck around and then actually lift the cab off the body, or off the frame. The cab's going to be off for a while. I'm going to store it on a trailer outside, and then we're going to pull the engine and trans out and drop in the LS motor with the all-wheel drive transmission and transfer case, get that all mounted up. Actually, I need to back up. Before that engine and trans go in, this truck is a two-wheel drive truck. Like I said, we want this to be all-wheel drive. So Nissans are pretty, a lot like Legos as far as the parts fitting together and whatnot. Some of the mounts for the front differential are there and two of them are missing, but you can buy those mount brackets right from Nissan, which I did already, and you bolt the brackets to the diff, put the diff in position, and just weld them to the frame. So I have to weld those to the frame before we drop the engine and trans in. But then once the engine and trans are in, and we kind of get an idea of how the whole drivetrain is going to lay out, how the trans cross member is going to look, because that's going to have to be custom, we can kind of finish doing the fab work and do a little paint work on the frame to get it ready to put the body back on. From there, still haven't laid out that plan in my head yet, but that's where I want to go. So it's going to be a couple weeks worth of work. We're only dedicating 1 day a week to work on this thing, so I'm going to try to get some content out for you on a weekly basis. And the rest of this is going to be just some overview of us working on it. So I hope you enjoy it. right, so we just got to the point now where we pulled everything apart on the back end. Obviously the bed's off, pulled the bumper off, and we're about to roll the axle out from under the truck. Basically consisted of live axle stuff is easy. Take the shackles, front spring hangers, shocks off, disconnect the brake lines, the drive shaft. We did just cut the e-brake cables because these cables are totally different than what the Armada, like, independent suspension drum style parking brake takes. So we actually have the cables from the Armada still. We'll see if we can make them work on here. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward. Like I said, we're about to roll this out. We'll probably just wire down the frame a little bit to knock some of this loose rust off, take off the evap canister, a couple other small things. We're going to cut out the spare tire carrier. We don't need it. The Armada subframe bolts in right here and down in front where that front spring perch is. So basically all of the suspension loading on the frame is from here forward. I'm not really worried about losing structural integrity in the back end, and this thing I'm sure will save some weight out of the truck. We are going to leave this cross beam in for now. Once the truck's fully mocked up and goes to my buddies over at One Motion for a cage setup, we'll see what they want to do. Maybe they'll cut that out, maybe they'll build something else themselves, we'll see. But for now we'll leave it in there, and that's about where we're at. got up to this point is basically everything stripped out of the rear of the truck that we wanted. Kind of looks funny right now with the rear axle just hanging off the rear shackles, but it's actually providing the weight to balance the truck on the lift so we can work safely with it. We cut off the bump stops off of the frame that were right above the axle because our new subframe is going to end up bolting in under here. We cut off the front spring hangers for the leaf springs on both sides. We cut out the rear cross member for the spare tire holder because we're not going to need that where we're going with this thing. And we're pretty much at the point now where we're ready to start fitting up the rear subframe out of the Armada. Now, as I said earlier in the video, the Armada and the Frontiers and all share this same frame shape. So our hope is that we can just weld the Armada mounts straight onto this frame where they were on the Armada and make this work. We'll find out in the next video if that's the case. So tune in next time. Right now, we're going to call it a wrap for today's work. And in the next video, we'll start putting together the subframe and getting it up into the truck and seeing how it all fits.